What's going on, everybody? Gentleman94 here. Welcome back to Sci-Fi Wednesdays. We are back on the Enterprise E. It has been a while. We've had a lot of group builds. Life got really crazy. We haven't had time to do a lot of bench work here on the Enterprise. But today, we're going to jump back in on it, get this thing finished up. Hopefully by next Wednesday, we'll have it done. So let's pull out the kit, show you what we've got. So we did a little bit of detail painting off camera. Right here around the bridge area, we've got some of the detail work. We also did some detail work around the impulse engines. Pretty decent. Around the shuttle bay, secondary shuttle bay I should say, that's all painted up. And we have the nacelles also detail painted here and around the top. Now there are these yellow markings here on the back of the nacelles and on the sides of the saucer. I don't know what they are. They could be docking ports or maybe thrusters. I don't know, but they're done. Captain's yacht has a little bit of detail painting as well as some of the areas here around the saucer. This bottom section completely re-Aztec'd, as well as the back section here. I added some extra details. Really, we are looking very, very good on this kit. The rear shuttle bay door does have to be painted, but overall, we're pretty much ready for the next step. Now, the next step really is future. I want to get this thing gloss coated today. We'll let this thing dry for about 48 hours. Then we're going to come back and we're going to decal. And then next episode, we'll finish off the last bits and pieces of this and get this thing done. So let's go ahead and put this on its base, which I also have to paint, by the way. And we'll go ahead and get that airbrush primed and airbrush this thing with future. So we've done about half the Enterprise right now with that glossy future. It's looking beautiful. I really like using future for a gloss coat because it's acrylic, it's easy to work with, it's self-leveling, and it really gives you a nice shiny finish. So I'm really excited about how this is turning out. I'm taking nice, broad, sweeping strokes with the airbrush, making sure that I cover all of the different parts and pieces from every angle. This ship has a lot of angular kind of sections that you could miss with future, so I'm really making sure I'm hitting all of the areas. Again, I'm running at about 15 psi, and I'm just going full open with the future, making sure that I'm really spraying that down, getting this thing looking beautiful. This is a big model, guys. As you can see, there is a lot of coverage that we need to go ahead and do with the future, but luckily, future goes a long way. I've had to refill once here. This is my second time on a full paint cup of future, and I'm going to probably run this out too. We're going to cover every inch of this thing in preparation for the decals, and then we're going to let it dry. I want it to dry for at least 48 hours. Make a cut here. We're going to come on back, and then we'll start the decal process. So, let's do it. All right, guys, we are back. It's been about 48 hours here. We're ready for decals. Now, I've been looking through the decals, and I've noticed that we're actually, we're not as well covered in decals as I anticipated. There's a lot, but we should have a few more parts and pieces, which we don't have. They just didn't put them on the decal sheet, so that's unfortunate. We have to go ahead and cut all of these out, though, and that's going to take quite some time. So let's go ahead and get out my supplies, and then we're going to start cutting these things out, and hopefully this will go by quickly. I'm going to cut all of these out and I'm going to group them into sections. I'm going to have all the escape pods together, preferably in numerical order, but I might lose some of that when I start poking around trying to find different numbers. I'm also going to take all of the markings like the Starfleet logos, the actual registry numbers, the name of the ship. We'll have some of the pre-Aztec decals that I'm going to have to go ahead and put on as well. But I've got my microsolve, got my microset ready. Let's do it. I put on one decal and already I can tell you that this is going to be a very long process. Not nearly as long as it took me to go ahead and do all of the Aztecing, but it's going to be a little lengthy project. We're going to put some microset down. We're going to slide on the very first of the escape pod decals. A little bit of adjustment with my finger, and we're going to use a Q-tip as well to go ahead and just kind of position this where we need it to be. The only landmarks you have to go ahead and place these are the windows. So check your windows, check the instructions, and just kind of get a feel for it. So we've been working on this for a while now. As you can see, we have half of the saucer section done. We have the escape pods up top here, but we're actually missing one of those sections I was talking about. If you notice behind that, we have some of the gray colors. We don't have that right here, and I'm pretty sure it needs to be there, but they never gave us a decal for that. So that's a little bit of an issue. We might have to airbrush that later on after the fact. We're moving on to the back of the fan decking here right below the secondary shuttle bay. And I'm actually going to be pulling out these little squares and placing them into the recessed panel areas. Now I've already laid out a nice coat of microset, so hopefully that will help get these things in here and get them to stay. We're just going to go section by section, pull them off the carrier film, position them, and then we're going to tamp them down with a Q-tip to make sure there's no extra moisture so they won't float away and reposition themselves somewhere else. Usually I'm a little nervous about doing really tiny thin decals like these, but so far they are covering, but they are very thin. You do have a lot of bleed through in terms of color for the super light decals, so keep aware of that in case you end up actually using these kit decals. They're not horrible, they're just really thin. For the underside of the saucer, we have the majority of the center section finished. We're going to go ahead and put some of the escape pods around the very front by the captain's yacht, and then we're going to go ahead and hit the perimeter with all of the escape pods as well. There are just so many escape pods. They're all over the place. I mean, really, there's a lot of them. But we're pushing through. We're almost there. Last couple of escape pods here for the center section. And there we are. I'm again just really playing it safe here. I don't want to rip these or tear them in half because they are super thin. Again, the other side, same thing. I'm going to hit it with a micro set. I'm going to slip that decal right off the carrier film, position it with my pin vise here, and then we'll tamp it down with a Q-tip, make sure it's nice and stable. Move on to the next one. Moving on to the registry numbers, guys. There's actually the NCC 1701E on the bottom here, which is super pointed for some odd reason. And there's also one on the top that says actually USS Enterprise on the very top of that, along with the registry number. Now they are curved and they don't really fit perfectly within the section that they give you, but it's good enough. So let's move on to the top one as well. Again, the same thing with this one. They really don't give you a lot of room here. So I'm going to actually cut the decal right in the center and fan it out a bit more. That actually worked pretty decently. I'm just going to be blotting it slightly with some micro set. And we're just going to roll it around, make sure it's nicely tamped down. Perfect. All right, guys, decals are on. You can see this is actually looking really cool. It just jumps to life. It really does. The future, super glossy. I love it. It is a bit of a pain, though, to place every single one of these escape pods around the saucer and around the engineering hull, but it's not too bad. It hasn't really been that difficult or crazy. It just takes some time. But then again, if I spent that many hours on Aztecing, a little bit of decal work isn't too bad. The back of the nacelles have the Starfleet logo as well as the registry number and the name of the ship. It's very busy though. I'm not used to starships looking that busy. But that's it, guys. We are ready to go ahead and let this thing cure. I'm going to give this probably 24 to 48 hours to go ahead and let those decals dry. Then we'll come on back, overcoat the whole thing again with Future just to make sure that we seal those decals. The next episode, we're going to come back. We're going to hit the base, get that painted up, do a little bit of touch-up paint here and there, and we will be ready to go ahead and call this one done. So tune in next time, guys, for the finale of the Enterprise E. I'm super excited about getting this thing done. Thank you so much for watching. Until then, guys, stay strong, keep modeling, and we will see you back here next week.